All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm on an interesting connection here. Sometimes when I'm talking to people on Zoom, depending on where they are in the province or anywhere else, the connection isn't always great. So this will be a fun one. I always look forward to interviewing people who are in rural Manitoba because, sometimes the connection is amazing and then 2 minutes later it just turns into weird, like, digital noise. But the band on this episode is one that has been on the podcast before, a couple times actually. And I guess like the to start all this off, I mean, the reason we're talking right now is because you have what was to me anyway a surprise new record that just came out. That I think I don't know how many people knew it was happening other than the actual band members. So we can get into all that, but I think to start things off, let's just start by the three of you introducing yourselves and what you do in the band, and we can sort of take it from there.
All right, so I'm Jordan, and this is gonna sound egotistical, but I'm like the guy who started it all. So if you had to pick like a face for the Moonlit Road, that's me. I started kind of as a solo act and then grew into a band of morphing members over the last few years. But right now I play guitar and bass and sing lead vocals.
Cool.
Yeah, and sitting with me is Kat. And she's looking like a deer caught in the headlights. She does like all of the behind the scenes stuff. So she did the recording engineering for this last record and the producing. She takes care of all the SOCAN registration, the graphic design, the web design. If it's something that you can think of, she's done it. She sang on this record. She wrote a song for this record. She played bass on this record. I don't really know what to call her other than like the MVP and the secret weapon of the band.
Right on.
Yeah, and I'm Bobby. I've been friends with Jordan and Kat for probably over 10 years now. Just kind of helped out wherever, and percussion, keys. I did background vocals on this record. Yeah, whatever they need, I'm kind of around.
Cool. Well, I think that maybe we need to sort of go back to what you were saying, Jordan, about how this was originally your solo project, and it's kind of morphed a number of times over the years because you've been on the show twice in the past, dating back 4 or 5 years now to the first one, and it was a completely different band then. And I'm pretty sure when I had you on the second time, it was also a completely different band. And now this is morphed yet again. So what?
Yep.
Why does that keep happening? Are you that hard to work with? Is that what the issue is?
Can I say the C word?
Yeah, say whatever you want. Yeah.
All right, so I'm a miserable cunt. Yeah, no, I don't know. It's just kind of the way that.
Oh, you guys got muted.
Yeah, you guys disappeared. Your sound disappeared. I'm sure there was a very interesting answer, but.
Okay.
Okay, you're back. You're back.
All right, we're back. Cool.
Yeah.
So I started out doing the solo thing while my original band was taking a break. And I was touring, playing crappy little bars in towns that you've never heard of. I've honestly never heard of other than the time I went to play at them.
Yeah.
But then I started writing material that it needed a band behind it. So the guys from the last band I was playing in came and joined the Moonlit Road, and it turned from being a solo project into basically that same band under a different name, with different material. And yeah, we played together for a very long time. We were probably, I would say, 10 years together, and then we kind of went our separate ways just, I guess, around the starting of COVID.
Okay.
Partly because of COVID, partly because of differing commitment levels to the band. I mean, we've been at it for a decade, right? And
yeah.
We had achieved some cool stuff, but at the same time, if you can't keep putting more into it, there kind of comes to a point where you don't want to anymore, I guess. And that's where those other two guys were at, was they were just kind of done. And so we talked about it, and they went their separate way. And that's when Catherine and Bobby joined. And for a little while, we had a backing vocalist named Amanda who sang on a single, and I'm not really sure if she's coming back for more or not. So that might be another member that came and went, but
Right.
it seems to be the curse of the Moonlit Road.
Well, just to rewind a bit too, when all of the other band members when they left and when COVID started happening and everything, I seem to recall something online implying that the band was done, at least for a reasonable amount of time. There was going to be a hiatus or it was ending or something, and then all of a sudden now you have this new record, and that's what I meant at the beginning when I said it's a surprise that you have this album, because I thought you guys were going to be off everyone's radar for a while, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's like not just a single, but there's a full album that you guys did at home, like while between juggling kids and work and stuff, right? So where did this come from? Like, how did this album come into existence after this kind of dismal, like, oh man, this sucks, this is going to end, and then suddenly no, you're back and you have new stuff, and it's
Well, our kid caught a cold.
Okay.
That's literally what happened.
How does a kid catching a cold turn into this?
So this was like, what was it, March?
It would have been March, yeah.
Yeah. So in March, our kid caught a cold. And when your kid catches a cold, you have to stay home until symptoms resolve in your whole house.
For sure. Yep.
And the cold went through the whole house. And so we wound up being home for 14 days. And we had nothing else to do.
Nothing but write a record? That's the first thing that comes to mind.
So like when you had said like it looked like the band was gonna end, it did end.
Right.
It was over. I wasn't gonna play again. I was pretty disillusioned, but then the kid got sick and Kat and I kind of sat down and we looked at some of the stuff that I had written, and she went, I could do something with this. And I went, fine, I don't want to do a fucking thing with any of this. I'm done. But then she started to do stuff with the songs that I had written, and I went, oh, this is turning out really, really good. I like this better than anything we've done yet. Yeah. I guess maybe we're not done. And if you listen to this record, it ranges from old school country sounds to the last song having ghost wails and a wild feedback fuzzed out guitar solo, and like it covers a much wider range than we usually do. And it was a lot more fun to make.
But that's not too far off, I guess, from, I think people who know the music that you listen to, I mean, you're not just a country guy. You have a lot of other stuff in the background. You got the grunge stuff that's always sort of trying to seep into what you do. And it almost makes sense that would have snuck in. But I think that, like, Kat, do you have a background as a musician? Like, well, we've talked to Jordan a bunch of times on here, but suddenly, like, the fact that you took those songs and turned them into something, I had no idea that you played music or that you were musically inclined at all. And suddenly to find out that, like, oh, wait, you're the reason this happened. Like, what's your background in music?
Yeah.
I guess I technically do have a background in music. I finished up to my grade 8 vocal and grade 7. I did all the work for grade 8 RCM piano.
Okay.
Jazz band, concert band, all through high school.
You played bass in a few of my bands. I don't consider
myself a musician. I actually don't know that I necessarily consider myself to be a member of the Moonlit Road.
That's like a ever-evolving lineup, though, right? There are no members other than this guy. Like, it's like the one member, and then whoever happens to be in his orbit, right?
Pretty much.
So, Bobby, where do you come in? Like,
that's basically I'm in Jordan's orbit.
You're part of the orbit, yeah. But did they bring you like sort of a mostly finished songs and you contributed to them, or at what point in this process did you come in?
Mostly finished, and they were they needed more background vocals, and I had one night off in like a month, and I was like, well, I have nothing to do tonight, so that's what I did. I think I went through 4 songs with them, and it turned out really cool.
It seems like boredom is a recurring theme here. Like, just having having nothing to do turns into making a record, which is cool. It's a good use of your time for sure. But it's not necessarily the origin story of an album that I'm used to hearing on this show, just like, oh yeah, we had nothing going on, so decided to record some shit. It's good. I like it.
Yeah.
So what,
We quit
obviously,
as a band, so then we made a record.
yeah. It makes sense, right? It's logical. So obviously no one knows what's happening with COVID. It seems at this point like it's maybe getting a bit better, but really no one has any idea. What happens after things get back to some semblance of normality? Does the Moonlit Road continue with these members as a version of the band? Do you seek out new members? Do you just play these songs solo? Do they get played live at all? What's the future look like?
So at this point, I'm kind of looking at mostly just sticking with this current lineup, and Kat kind of jumping in as she can, and when she can't, then just Robert and I kind of doing a duo kind of thing. I've tried lots of times now with the full band lineup, and just it's a lot to juggle. People have lives, and I've consistently always had bandmates that are from different communities, which makes that a little trickier. So I'm kind of looking at going back into the more stripped down way of doing things and bring in some heavy hitters maybe for bigger shows or festivals or whatever. But otherwise it'll be me and my guitar and Bobby whacking some kind of piece of wood again.
Well, that makes a lot of sense too, because a lot of the songs on all three of the records, or I guess four, I guess you have four records now, right? They're all very conducive to being played that way. I mean, I don't think there's any of them that wouldn't work in a stripped down format. And that's obviously, I'm sure, how you wrote them originally, right?
Yeah, I write them intentionally that way.
Do you have a preference? I mean, if given the ideal situation, would you rather be up there with a full band, or do you actually enjoy the kind of solitary vibe of like an acoustic set or a one or two person show?
So even when I did have a full band, I did both. I would have we would do a full band set, and then I would do a solo acoustic set in the middle, and then we would do a full band set to close, kind of thing. A big idol of mine is City and Color, and that's kind of how he does it.
Yeah.
And not to compare at all or whatever, but I really enjoy being able to do both sides of it. I don't know that I prefer one over the other. One thing I do like about doing it by myself is then it's all on you to either put on a good show or fuck it all up.
Yeah.
And I like riding that lightning a little bit.
You don't like being able to hide behind multiple band members?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's good though. I was in a band with 10 people like many years ago, and it was nice that if someone screwed up, they wouldn't necessarily know it was me. So it was good. You could sort of stick to the back. But no, I mean, and your songs are also very personal too, right? So I mean, it does make sense that they're for them to be kind of put out there in that format, in that very intimate kind of acoustic one or two person format. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think the sound of the band, or of the Moonlit Road, whether you want to call it a band or call it you in your orbit, whatever, how has it changed on this record? I know you mentioned
the next record name.
The Orbit.
You and your orbit.
You and your orbit, yeah. Well, I mean, I know you mentioned there's a lot of different sounds on this one, but the overall sound of the band, I mean, I feel like in general you tend to fall into the country / singer-songwriter kind of category, with rock and things in there as well. But do you still feel that this is a country project with everything else happening there, or would you call it something else now? Like, is it still fall into that big umbrella category if you had to place it somewhere?
So currently I would say it still falls into that like alternative country kind of sound, but I've already got the songs written for the next record, and I can tell you that they are not going to sound country.
Okay. Was that inspired by this record? Like, did you oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, what was that?
I was going to say, was that inspired by doing this? Like, are you now fully back in the saddle here now that you've got this record out, and you're obviously you have been writing?
Yeah. So we're releasing a remixes version of this record in the fall, where like there's EDM on it, there's punk on it. Like it doesn't sound anything like this record at all. Like there's one song where we ran my vocals through a Marshall guitar amp with the distortion cranked up kind of thing. Like it's very different than anything we've done before. And the next set of songs that we're going to do were sort of inspired by how the last song on this record turned out.
Okay.
It's actually a re-recording of one that I did on my very first record. We needed a sixth song, and I was lazy. I didn't want to write another one. I just wanted to finish the record and have it done. So we took one from way back when, and Kat sprinkled her magic on it, and it came out so cool that I went, oh, now we have to do a whole record like this because this is awesome.
Yeah. Well,
so it's not going to sound country because that song does not sound country.
Would you say with this record that the two of you have kind of like basically collaborated on every song here? Is it a joint project between the two of you at this point? Oh, did we lose the audio?
I lost your audio.
Okay, that's cool. We can wait. I will fix this obviously in the podcast version. If I remember, I hope I remember, because otherwise there'll be this big dead air section in the middle here. But
Jordan hung up on you just a second.
Okay. Yeah, their video's frozen too.
There, it should be working now.
I connected.
Okay.
All right.
I went to push I went to scratch my ear and lost. Yeah,
You're back now, though?
I think so.
Yeah, it should be good
Yeah.
now.
Okay. I can hear you. What I was going to ask is, with the two of you being involved in this record together, and obviously, like you said, being at home for those 14 days really sort of made this happen. I guess maybe this is a question for Kat more than Jordan, but like with songs that are so personal, I mean, like the Moonlit Road has very much been like kind of almost a confessional sort of songwriting for a lot of the records. Is it hard to, I mean, obviously you know each other very well, that's not that's got to help, but is it hard to sort of put your own fingerprints on something like that clearly is something that he has been I mean, they're personal songs, right? I don't know if this one is any more or less than the previous albums, but it's very much his own voice and his own kind of feelings in a lot of these songs, going back to the first album, right?
I think that the more interesting part was getting him to shut up and let me do what I was trying to do. Because he definitely had a vision of what these songs were going to sound like, but I've also been listening to these songs for as long as he's been singing them.
Sure, yeah.
So there's some level of what I've got in my head for what I think that they should sound like too.
Okay.
And I listen to a lot more variety of music than Jordan does. Jordan listens to like 3 different artists, and none of them are after 2007.
Right. That doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all.
So there's a little bit more, like I think Jordan hears more variety in this record for sure. And I think that's partly why, is because I listen to more variety of music.
Well, what do you listen to? Like, are there certain things that came through that you kind of feel were, subconsciously or not, inspired by certain artists that you like?
I don't think so. I don't know. Do you hear anything that I like? I really like Taylor Swift.
Okay. Which is a change from his usual records, yeah.
I don't know that you can hear specific influences of Kat's when you listen to the record, but like,
I don't like country music.
No. And so her vibe that she brought to it basically was to take away the country sound from the songs. But ironically, there are 2 extremely country songs on this record that she made sound very, very country.
And then what kind of songs are they on the remix record?
EDM and punk.
All right. Well, when is this remix record coming? First of all, remix record. Did you remix all the tracks yourself, or do you have other people working on these, or is it again a project?
Kat's already partway done.
Okay.
I haven't finished them, but I've done a couple of them. I don't believe in genre. Like, I don't think it's a real thing. The only thing that really dictates a genre is whether there's distortion and what kind of drums you've got going on.
Yeah.
So I am seeking to prove that, apparently.
Okay. And you're remixing all of this yourself? Like, Is the
Sorry,
whole
what was
record
that?
is the whole record your remixes? Like, are you remixing the whole thing yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be interesting. I mean, it'll be definitely a different sound for the Moonlit Road for sure. If you got EDM going on there and
Oh yeah.
punk rock, yeah. When
There's, I don't know what you call it, but in the one song, she went with the most stereotypical synthy thing ever, and coming back into the chorus, it goes. "Whoop, whoop, 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 whoop." The first time I heard that, I was like, "Fuck."
do you actually like the remixes though? Like the ones you've heard? Are you
Love it. Yeah.
That's good because that would kind of suck if you were just like, this has killed my songs.
No, actually, the one song in particular is better. I would have released it as a single, but it just did not fit with the rest of the record at all.
Well, maybe that's something to talk about too. Is what has it been like releasing a record during a pandemic? Because I mean, obviously, no one's playing shows right now, so it's not like that's unique to you. But not only did this record come out of nowhere, it also came out at a time when the traditional way of promoting a record doesn't exist. You can't play shows, you can't, sell physical copies to people hand to hand. What has that experience been like for you guys?
You released 2 during the pandemic.
Well, I guess you
Yeah, we
did. Yeah,
actually
yeah.
released
Never
2
mind. Yeah,
during the
that's right. That's right.
pandemic.
So this is old hat for you.
Yeah, this is par for the course.
Yeah.
I actually got a message from someone asking me, like, so how do I support you financially? I want to pay for this. I want to help out somehow, not just take your music. And I was kind of torn on that because, like, of course you want to make money off your music, but at the same time, people are really, really hurting right now. So my response was to say, like, I want anybody to be able to listen to this, whether they have money or not. So I wasn't super worried about promoting the record and pushing it the same way that I might if I could go on tour tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get it out there and into people's hands. So it's been a little different. We've had considerably more streams on Spotify and stuff than we usually do. So that's nice. I guess there's people actually listening. But yeah, this is our second record released during a pandemic. The last one was released during a pandemic, and it did really well for itself. And I got my fingers crossed this one will too.
Where can people find it right now? I mean, what's the best way to hear it? I know you mentioned, streaming on Spotify and all that, but what's the ideal spot for people to check it out in your mind? I mean, is it a Bandcamp thing? Is it Spotify? Where would you rather people head to check it out?
Everywhere.
It's literally everywhere. I like if people go to our website to find things out, just because then they can click around and look at other stuff too.
But I think like from my perspective anyway, whatever's the most accessible way for you to access the music is the way that you should try to access the music. And if none of the ways that we have it available are accessible to you, then send us a message and we will make it accessible to you.
Cool.
Yeah, like there will be physical copies eventually, but I'm not in a big rush because I can't deliver it to somebody right now.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and you're not playing shows, so you have no merch table, so that's out of the question too. Yeah. So the website
of it sitting in my house.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think most bands have that anyway. But this would be an extra few boxes there. Yeah. Is the website the best way to find out what's going on with the band in future? Because the good thing about this being a podcast is it's coming out in a few weeks from when we record it, but someone could listen a year from now or 2 years from now, and by then, like, let's hope that COVID is over and shows are happening again and touring is happening. So is that kind of the hub to go to find out upcoming shows and things like that?
No, honestly, Instagram is our most up-to-date way of finding out what's going on.
Okay.
And you get a little bit more than just a glimpse of the band with our Instagram. You kind of get more of my personal life as well. So it's probably the most interesting place to follow us.
Okay.
But the website is up to date. As the person who updates the website, I need to say
it is up to date.
It's not just sitting there.
It's just I don't think to hand you a whole page of stuff that I think of that day.
Right. Well, what's maybe plug the website. What's the address? Where can people find you online?
It's www.moonlitroadband I think. And
Well,
then
I-
at Moonlit Road Band on all social media.
Right on, and I'll put links in the show notes here too, so people can find it. And yeah, I'm happy you're still doing something, because it was kind of a bummer to hear when I thought the band was done, or when it was done before this miraculous revival here. But nice to hear you're still going, and it's cool that you seem revitalized in terms of like trying new things and wanting to write new music, and the fact that you're both doing this is super cool too. So I'm glad to hear it's working out, and that the Moonlit Road continues in some form or another.
I have a feeling it probably always will.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.